Hi there, this is part 2 of chapter 7, and we are reading How to Be a Hero by Kat Weldon. Okay, so Loki has just arrived. Dearie me. The trickster smiled. Now, you're lucky you ran into me. You see, I don't care why you're here or who brought you. A flicker of guilt ran across Whetstone's face as he thought of Lotta. He took a step backwards. All I want is the magic cup of Orphalrig. I know you have it. Whetstone backed into a corner, the heels of his boots meeting the wall behind him. You mean the magic cup of Frigg? Can it really tell fortunes? He asked, eyeing the doorway over Loki's shoulder. Loki smiled again, his pale face floating out towards Whetstone in the gloom. Indeed, it can tell the future of anyone who holds it. Really? Whetstone leaned forward. Does that mean the riddle has something to do with my future? The man's eyes widened in surprise and then narrowed again. Now, wherever did you hear about a riddle? I haven't, Whetstone protested. His words were cut short as the stable door creaked open. A shape stepped inside, too small for Scold, too few legs for Broken Tooth. Whetstone, Lotta whispered. The boy tried to call out, but Loki moved faster. In a tumble of feathers, a hawk appeared where the man had been and dived towards Lotta. Loki reformed, slipping in between Lotta and the stable door, closing it firmly behind her. She flinched and instinctively unsheathed the sword strapped across her back. Well, look what I found, Loki began in a sing-song voice, his face glowing eerily in the green light surrounding Flea and Flay. The Thief and the Valkyrie. How sweet. Whetstone felt his face burn as Lotta lowered her sword and glowered at Loki. He slid into Thighbiter's stall. The horse sniffed him and tried to take a bite out of his hair. What are you talking about? Lotta pointed at Flea and Flay with her sword. Scold sent me to fetch them. She examined Flay, frozen mid-scream, and tried to give her a poke. Ow! She sucked at her stinging fingers. You'd better unfreeze them. Scold wants them in Valhalla. The man laughed. I don't think you really mean that. No? You should be thanking me. He edged Lotta deeper into the stables. Thanking you, Loki, for freezing Flea and Flay. I could have taken care of them myself. Loki just smiled his twisted smile. I know your little secret, Valkyrie girl, and I'm the only thing standing between you and banishment from Asgard. Even in the green light, Whetstone could see Lotta's dark skin break out in sweat. Banishment, she croaked. Loki nodded. Isn't that the punishment for breaking the Valkyrie code? Lotta swallowed. I don't know what you're talking about. She sounded confident, but her shaking hands made her wrist guards rattle. Oh, really? Loki grinned. Then who is this? He doesn't look much like a dead hero to me. Whetstone felt his body rise into the air as though he had been picked up by a gigantic hand. He cried out in shock, trying to grab hold of Thighbiter and failing. He floated away from the horses and hung, suspended in front of Lotta, his toes dangling a foot above the ground. Lotta gulped. You are very lucky, really, Loki continued, as Whetstone spun gently in the air. I happen to know that before he was brought to Asgard, this boy stole a magic cup. All he has to do is give it to me, and I will make this whole thing... He waved his hand, and Whetstone dropped to the floor with a bump. Disappear. I've never seen him before, Lotta quavered. Oh dear, Loki said. I hope you're not going to make this difficult. The man opened his arms wide. I'm only trying to help, he said, moving away. All I want is the cup, of course. If you want to give up your Valkyrie powers and move to Midgard, I guess I could send Flea and Flay to tell Scold now. Lotta shook her head. Just leave her out of this, called Whetstone, pushing his cloak out of his face. Loki moved closer, his eyes fixed on the dark-haired Valkyrie. There's no need for Skoll to know about your little mistake, as long as I get what I want. I'm not a thief. Lotta clenched her hands into fists. And you won't be a Valkyrie for much longer either. Lotta took a deep breath and closed her eyes. She poked the boy with the toe of her boot. Go on then. Give it to him. Whetstone crossed his arms. No. Lotta opened her eyes. What do you mean, no? He's not getting it. I have plans for that cup. Don't be stupid. Lotta pulled at his cloak, searching for pockets. Just give him the cup. Whetstone swatted her away. Tough luck, I don't have it with me. Loki looked like he had just bitten a lemon, an expression that reminded Whetstone a lot of Valley. But you know where it is, Lotta hissed, don't you? Whetstone bit the inside of his lip. He really didn't want to tell Loki what he had done with the cup, but Valley must have figured out it was somewhere on either the Nosegrinder's farm. He needed to get there first. It's hidden on Midgard, he said, slowly weighing his words. Lotta turned to the handsome man. There you go. It's on Midgard. Whetstone will get it for you. Loki waved a hand towards Flea and Flay, and the magic holding them wavered. Hold! The twins wailed before freezing again. I'll go with him and bring it to you, Lotta amended, her fingers twisting together. We'll give you the cup, and we'll forget this ever happened. But what about Flea and Flay? She gestured towards the eerie glow in the doorway. You can't keep them frozen forever. Bring me the cup, and I'll make sure they don't remember a thing. God's honour, Loki replied, holding up 3 fingers in a kind of salute. Lotta squinted at him. Think of it as a quest, Loki continued, holding eye contact with Lotta. Worthy of heroes. Heroes, Lotta murmured. Just one problem. As everyone keeps pointing out, I'm not a hero. Whetstone crossed his arms. Lotta and Loki turned to look at him. Whetstone glared at Loki. Even if I give you the cup, how do I know you'll keep your side of the bargain? You could still send me to Sniffelheim or wherever. Loki focused his dark eyes on Whetstone, and the boy felt himself trapped in their penetrating gaze. I can give you everything you ever wanted. Fame and fortune. Loki ran his hands along the stable wall. His fingers left behind a trail of yellow sparks, which turned into golden coins. Whetstone's eyes grew wide as more money than he had ever seen in his life dripped onto the floor. Do you want minstrels to sing songs about you? Whetstone paused, arguments dying in his throat. Loki turned back to Lotta. Of course, he added delicately, if the boy fails, I will be unable to prevent you from facing the punishment laid down by Odin and the Valkyrie Council. Lotta's brow furrowed. So it all depends on him. That's not fair. Life's not fair, princess. Whetstone tried to keep his face blank as his mind spun. This would make a good story for the minstrels to sing about him. Visiting Asgard, making oaths, finding magical treasures was all good stuff. He dragged his eyes away from the piles of golden coins, but he would need something to prove he'd been there. And of course, just because he dug up the cup, it didn't mean he had to give it to Loki straight away. If the cup could tell the future, Whetstone had some questions he wanted it to answer first. Like, would he become the greatest thief ever? Or how could he get rid of that itchy rash behind his left knee? Of course, Lightfinger would be upset about not getting the cup, but Whetstone felt he could find something here in Asgard to bring him instead. Okay, Whetstone said out loud, it's a deal. The cup for fame and fortune. Loki rubbed his hands together. Excellent. So that's decided then. You have 1 day to bring me the cup, or I unfreeze the twins. Lotta looked up in panic. Wait a minute, 1 day? That's not very long. Loki smiled at her, the movement stretching his scars into strange shapes. No, he agreed. It isn't.